Okay. Hello and welcome to Positive Conversations with David and Donna. I'm Donna.
I'm David.
And if you listen to our last version of this podcast, or I should say our last edition of this podcast, there's a version
Episode.
Oh my goodness, I can't get my words out. We're doing two different podcasts and we just completely decided to change the format of the other one. So my mind is baffled. But I listened to our last episode, there's the word I'm looking for, of Positive Conversations earlier today. And I know that one of the big things we were focusing on with David was how he feels like he has to please everyone else before he pleases himself. And he said things like he was unlocking things, which I thought was intriguing. And I don't want this podcast to turn into kind of a psychoanalysis of me picking David's brain. But it's just kind of cool for me to listen to what he says and then offer the insights that I have had facing those same issues in my life. And again, our age difference makes that possible for us. Not to mention that he always has phenomenal insights as well. And we would love to hear from you about your issues so we can talk to you about them or give you advice as well if you would like it. So anyway, I'm going to go back to my question and say, David, what are some things that you can do, or what are more things that you have found yourself doing to please other people before you please yourself?
I can sometimes find it hard to say no. Whenever it's like, hey, take my shift at work. And, I try to do those things because I'm going to need help too. Eventually, one day I'm going to need someone to take my shift at work or whatever. So I don't mind saying yes to that. But I've also found myself a lot like going out of my way and changing things just to be, I think, the helpful guy. Like I mentioned it last time, there have been times where I should just say, call my boss. But I'm like, I don't want to say no, I don't know how to do something, or I don't know how to help you. A lot of times people are like, hey, can you get the pizza this week? And I don't want to say no. Or hey, can you do these chores so I can go do this even though this is mine, or just take this responsibility. And I just find it hard to say no to a lot of things, even if I really don't want to do them. But also it's hard because I'm trying to balance that with, well, what are my responsibilities? Because you can't always say no to everything if it's your responsibility. And so in my head, it's so twisted as to what is a responsibility I have to do and what is something I don't have to do that I actually have a choice on.
Well, I guess you said a few things. What are some things that you have agreed to do that in retrospect you really wish that you had just said no?
Being the DD, the designated driver, a lot. That's been a thing a lot.
So you regret doing it?
In a few instances, yeah.
And so why did you agree to do it?
Because I felt like I was helping, even though I was like really damaging myself.
How so?
Because it was that was like it was for a person that I really shouldn't have been doing that for, and lots of stuff like that where it's like,
okay, let me just say, excuse me, I'm yawning. I feel like anybody who ever wants to be a designated driver, it's a wonderful, positive, phenomenal thing to do for friends. But I think what you were doing is putting yourself in a position that you really didn't even have to go to the event at all. But the only reason you went...
Oh, yeah. I would pick up people and it would be like... And there's what I'm talking about. But there's also other instances where it's like I had no interest in going, no interest in caring at all. I wanted to sleep, but it's 1 a.m. and I'm getting phone calls saying, hey, can you come get me? And, what am I supposed to do? Tell them no? But in hindsight, there have been times where I can say... yeah, get an Uber. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry you don't want to spend the money, but, your mistakes are not always my responsibility.
Absolutely.
And I've taken on a lot of people's mistakes as my own responsibility before. And always excusing bad things and, like, just pushing them aside and being okay with them and just ignoring them.
Now, in those particular cases, was it because you think you were trying to keep a relationship or... It was a friendship or a whatever?
It sort of, but more that I just didn't know how not to be pushed around.
Okay. Do you feel like you've changed in that regard? What do you think helped you to stop being pushed around so much?
You.
Aww.
Well, for one, I remember you told me, I don't know if I told the story before, but it was like I was actually telling you, I'm about to go pick this person up. And you're like, why? Because I kept doing that. And it was this person that I had in my life and I just couldn't say no to. But there was that, but also just like teaching myself to do more what I wanted to do. Okay, in the same vein of that, there's a lot of times where like I would have some free time to myself and I really wanted to spend my free time because I was, in college, I was working 20 hours a week in college and doing all this stuff. And I really wanted to spend my free time in my dorm playing a video game I just really wanted to play because it would make me happy, it would de-stress me, and I just wanted to do it. It would make my heart happy.
Right.
But I wouldn't do it because someone else would say, well, no, will you come to the library with me? Even if I had nothing to study. They just wanted me to sit there and be there, and I just, or hey, do this with me, come do this, oh, let's hang out, let me come over, and while I'm over, like, we're not gonna, no, let's watch this movie, and stuff like that, and I just never said no to any of those things, and so I was never happy, and that's a lot less dramatic,
Oh,
like it's a lot less dramatic of just, like, something as simple as, I want to play this video game, but this person wants to watch a movie and wants me to watch it with them, and I just didn't know how to at least sometimes say, no, I'm going to do this thing today because I really want to do that.
I think it might have been some of you wanted approval, you didn't want to cause an argument, you were trying to keep the relationship going.
And there was a lot of if I said no, it would cause an argument,
right.
or it would lead to me being feeling worse because it would become like, well, you suck and you're just not a good friend or not a good boyfriend and you're just a horrible person and you're right, wanting approval and just like and just things being made more dramatic than they were, of course, and other stuff where it's like I've come to find a lot recently where I can say like, oh, I don't want to go over to your house, even with my friends. Like, not having just like dramatic girlfriend problems, but like with my friends. Like, I don't want to go over to Logan's today. I'm tired, and it's that simple. But it used to be I'd be like I would just not know how to
back out of something,
or just to do what it is I wanted to do, and it became such a stressful point in my life. And what I've learned and what I want to say is just like taking care of yourself can be as simple as playing the video game whenever you want to play a video game in your free time, as long as you handle your responsibilities, of course. And also handling your responsibilities and not letting someone else throw their responsibilities on you. Yeah. It's okay to be a good friend, though. Like, be a good friend, be helpful, be there for people. But, because there will be a time where you need help, but you have to learn whenever you're being pushed around and manipulated. Yeah. And that's if you want to live a better life, then and you feel like you are always trying to make other people happy and you're not making yourself happy, then the very first thing you have to do is just acknowledge to yourself that you are being pushed around. Stop making excuses for other people. Yeah. You are being pushed around. And you don't deserve to be pushed around, no matter what they make you feel like it. They make you feel like you do deserve to be pushed around, or you're worthless, or you're not worth whatever it is you want to do. Well, it doesn't matter because you're worthless and stupid anyway. That's not true at all. It doesn't matter who you are. You are being pushed around and you don't deserve to be pushed around. And those are the first few things. And then you can make the next step of saying, well, I'm not going to be pushed around and work from there.
Yeah, so there's always a balance because there are the people who are like, do it my way or whatever. So then you run the risk of becoming the other side of the problem. Yeah. So it's just, I think, a balance. Just like
you got to walk a tightrope.
With any relationship, I feel like just open communication about, hey, what are you doing today? Well, what do you want to do today? Okay, well, I need to do this, this, and that. Is it okay if I do this now while you do that, or would you rather go eat first? And then just talk about it so that it's not like, well, he just sat down and ate his lunch without me, and then have all these fits and anxiety and upset because you didn't discuss and decide together, and be flexible. If someone's, look, it's taking me a little bit longer to finish this, is it okay? Just constantly talk about what is happening so that there's not all of this manipulation and push and tug and all this sulking and the over drama about nothing. I mean, so many people.
You're right. So, and what I've had to learn with that, like, and keep maintaining relationships is like, you're right, communication and this sulking, and it's so edgy and dramatic and freaking stupid, and it's annoying, and what I've learned is that you can do whatever you want as long as you acknowledge your responsibilities and like say and be okay with yourself and be like, okay, I know I have spent plenty of time and plenty of money and effort and everything on this person for right now. It is okay if I play this video game right now, and be okay with yourself and that sort of thing. And because the truth is they probably will be too. And if they aren't, well, then communication is the way to talk about it and acknowledge maybe you really haven't spent enough time with them or put enough effort into that relationship. And then you can talk about why and what you could do differently.
And how to fix it. What you both want, and how to achieve it. Right.
Right. And it is about the balance, because you don't want to become like, well, no, I'm going to do what I want now. And that includes you doing this. No, that's not the way to do it. It's the saying, like, you can do whatever you want to do. And that's something I learned. That's a very important a sentence there to learn to say. Is like, you can do whatever you want. I'm gonna do this. Where it's like, and that's with anybody. Where it's like, I'm gonna go eat this for dinner, or I want to eat this, and we're gonna do this, and it's like, you can do whatever you want. But I made a decision where I'm going to do this. If you want to come sit in my room and watch me play this video game, sure, but I'm playing this game today, or I'm making this video today, or I'm working on this thing today. That's what I'm going to do. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. You have to explain, like, I don't care what you do, and you don't care what I do. But then there's the balance, because with that mindset, people can be like, well, it's okay if I cheat on my significant other because I'm doing what I want to do. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. You're twisting words around. And
good point.
But that's a responsibility to not do that. And so take care of your responsibilities, and then take care of yourself, and just don't let other people push you around or make you do things you don't want to do. And just do things you want to do. And that's self-care.
It is. And a large part of self-care that I've talked about, and I have an example from one of my classes, is self-talk. That's something that so many of us are unaware of, and I've spent a large part of my life listening to myself just completely be malicious and awful to myself. And we all do that. I don't know what it is in our psyche, or if it's something we've learned just from the way we're raised, but just, that was so stupid. Just whatever it is you do, I mean, you just tell yourself, that was ridiculous. Why do I always, and you're in your head, you're just always putting yourself down. And it's just such an easy thing to do, and also an easy thing to ignore. Like, you don't realize you're doing it.
Yeah, until you end up 3 a.m. not able to sleep because you're thinking about the thing you said in 2007. And it's no one cares except for you.
And we've talked about that, I think, a few times. Just stupid things I can go back to and remember how stupid I felt. Like, God, I felt so stupid when that happened. And then when you feel it again, you have that same feeling of how stupid you felt, and that self-loathing of, God, I'm just such an idiot, and I
wish I could just punch myself in the face.
Yeah, or it's just I know that I guess most people will never ever completely get rid of it, but the way to do it is to become aware of it. So I can tell this story. One of my students in my 8th-hour class has a powerlifting meet, and he just last couple of days just sitting in my class just looking so worried, and I'm just so worried. I'm so worried about it. And I'm like, what are you worried about, honey? He's like, well, I'm going to be competing, and this class has like 20 people in it, and I just want to win, and there's not any way I can win against that many people. And I'm like, whoa, stop. And so we did a whole lesson in 8th hour. I said, let's talk about, first of all, what you're saying to yourself. I mean, you want to do the best you can. And to be honest, that's all you can ever do is your best. So if you're worried about how many people you're competing against, what you're telling yourself is that you're not as good as them. But that's not what you need to think. What you need to think is, I am the man. I got this. I'm going to win. I'm going to blow them out the water. Just so that you have the faith in yourself. And whether you're competing against 1,000 other people or 3 other people, if you go in there and do your best, then there's nothing else you can do. And so having all the worry and the anxiety and the negative self-talk and all this stuff, it's going to make your best performance not possible. So we had the little moment, and it was funny because 2 of my other guys came rallying around him. Yeah, you got this. You're the man. You're going to take him. Kind of to the over extreme, and it was funny. But, you just, whatever you face, whatever challenges you face, just tell yourself that you're good enough to do it, that you're going to do your best. and then be okay with your best, even if it's not exactly what you wanted it to turn out like. Don't tell yourself that you'll never be good enough. What more can
you have done?
Right. But so many of us grow up with the unrealistic expectations, a lot of times from our parents or just even from our classmates of, oh, well, you're just stupid, and look how stupid, wear those shoes with that. Just all the things we do to put each other down. And it gets to the point to where you feel like nothing you do is ever accepted or never good enough for anybody else, especially yourself. And so learning to hear your voice in your head is huge, and then turn it around and say, I am good enough. Because this is another example I use a lot. If you don't care what other people think, they can tell you that your shoes don't match your socks or whatever. They can put you down and call you names and say horrible things about you. And if it doesn't bother you, then they generally stop, because they're just trying to get a reaction and make themselves feel better at your expense. But if they're going to come and be rude to you and you don't let that rudeness bother you, then you're fine and they can go somewhere else, And that's an easy thing to say, but not always an easy thing to do, because people can say horrible, hurtful things. Mm-hmm. So what are your advice about learning how to not let it get to you or let it roll off,
If people are going to say hurtful things, well then there's enough of that, so why are you saying it to yourself also? You know what I mean? There's no reason. That's what I tell myself. It's like there's already enough of that, and I have lots of problems with like beating myself up for a lot of different things, and my advice for that is to like face it and confront. Like if it's just a person, like I've had that before where I realized I just treated someone really badly, and so I just send them a text message, what are they gonna do, and just be like, hey, I'm sorry, I realize now this, blah, blah, blah. And then you can sleep a whole lot better about it. You trust me, you can sleep a whole lot better. Or I know I did this stupid thing, I'm sorry. Even if they don't, like, forgive you or whatever, it's like, well, you did your best. And as long as you're doing your best, then it's hard to beat yourself up.
Well, have you ever confronted someone who bothered you, who hurt you, like, to try to ease that?
No. I don't think I ever have, because I don't think that that's necessarily a good.
It depends on how you do it, because as a teacher,
it does depend on how you do it.
It does. As a teacher, in fact, you were sitting in the room when I did this. I had a student where there was just some awkwardness with a situation, and I felt very hurt by just some of the reactions that were happening around me and being ignored when I felt like there was no reason to, and it just hurt my feelings. It just straight up hurt my feelings. And I mean, even as an adult, people are like, oh yeah, you're older, things don't bother you. Well, they will always, because you're a human being. And so I just sat down and said, hey, look, this happened, and I need to make sure that we're straight. I mean, you're going to be in my class next year, and I want to make sure that everything's cool, and this was a very important person to me, and I didn't want to go into the school year with awkwardness surrounding, us working together. And we just talked about it. Do you remember what I'm talking about? We just sat there and had the big conversation. Well, you were there. It was.
Okay.
It was just like, hey,
I got you.
This is what I observed. I'm not sure why this happened. Is there something we need to go ahead and get out of the open?
Yeah, now that you put it that way, that does when something hurts you and just confront and get it out the way, because they're probably wanting to get it out the way also, even if they don't actively realize it themselves. And that's another part of like the self-care is like handling things that are in front of you because they're not going to go away, and just get it, and just once it's done, you'll feel a whole lot better no matter how it turned out. But the reason I was saying like sometimes it isn't the best idea is because it's like you're messaging them, and you're coming to them and you're like, this really hurt me and I want you to apologize. You can kind of come off as like the jerk in the situation, and you don't want to do that.
I hear what you're saying, and I wasn't even asking for an apology. It was more
let's
clear the air.
About, you're right.
But what you're saying though, like if you're like the victim of bullying or some such, and you're like, we should stop bullying me, that's the kind of thing that'll make them bully more.
Yeah, bully more. And then
but
also,
if it's the person that you're working with.
But I have seen stuff, in that case where it's like, whenever you're able to maybe be a little bit tougher, you can go in and say like, you said really mean things to me, and it is not okay that you did that. That's better than like complaining. Like confront and say like, it is not okay that you did that. It's not okay. You shouldn't be okay with it. It isn't okay. And then just walk away and like, they might think it's nothing, but to you, I mean, you did something and that's the best you could do. What I was sort of referring to is like the person that my ex that was so horrible. I mean, I'll talk. I'm not gonna say the names, but she kept messaging me and all that was happening. And one of the things she messaged when she was messaging my friends also, which is insane. They were like, "Why do you even want to talk to him?" And what she said was, "I deserve an apology," and it's like.
First of all, there was nothing for
there was nothing to apologize about. And then it's like, so, because that's where like she's messaging. She's trying to confront me to get an apology, which like was really confusing. But it was like, what the heck? That is not. So like that's what came to my mind first. Where it's like, do you ever confront somebody for apology? But now that I've thought about it, yes, of course, you should like bring it up and be like,
clear the air.
Yeah. And this is a problem, and what's the deal? And a lot of times, some people many times in my friend group, there will be a thing where it's like there's some tension, and I've learned to just be like, y'all whack. I just say that now, or like Andre the other day he said like y'all it's like y'all are bagging. It's like, what does that even mean? But I understood what he meant. It's just because they were just like complaining in the group chat, and it's just something simple like y'all whack. I just say that now. Because that really does clear the air, and there's no need for any drama at any point in life or tension at all. And it's all everything's stupid.
Well, there are people who thrive on that.
There are people who thrive on that.
They feel like they're not alive. They don't have that crazy.
Yeah, it's like a drug, and I've been there before where I'm like, ooh, drama, but there's no need for any of that, and but amongst friend groups, whenever you got someone, and if someone's being really angsty, and just confront them and be like, hey, you're being really mean to me. Why?
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, that's often the time they'll get, and then you can talk about it and resolve it and just be like, that was whack. Let's not do that anymore. Right. And then you can relieve all the tension. So the confronting yourself and also confronting, tell yourself that you're being whack. Whenever it's like, that's whack.
That's the tool. The tool for this podcast is tell yourself and your friends, you are whack.
Whenever you're being whack. Whenever you tell yourself something that you would never say, like, whenever you tell yourself something that you would never want to say to anybody else, when I witness bullying, it's like, that's whack. So don't bully yourself, because that's whack. That's whack, bro.
And I think that's a phenomenal way to end our podcast today.
That's whack. So
remember this tool.
Whack.
We kind of went around the world a little bit, but I think the bottom line is we want to live our best life, and we want to learn to stand up for ourselves, not always say yes to everybody, that sometimes you have to find time to pamper yourself and to be your best self so you can be around other people and be happy, and also learn to recognize the negative voice inside your head, and learn to confront things so that you can clear the air. And you can do that with our new tool by saying everything is whack.
Everything's whack.
Everything's whack.
If it's whack, say it's whack.
Say it's whack. I will take that into my life this week. And we can report next week to see if we have used our new whack tool, and we will share how that went for us.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, that'll be how we start next week. So I guess we'll close this one off by saying thank you so much for listening to our positive conversation. And please give us a like and a subscribe. And we will do what we can to help everybody learn to stay positive. This has been Donna.
And David.
Stay positive.